We've got to talk about this Hyundai IPO in India. It's not just big,
It's massive.
exactly, like seriously huge. We're talking record-breaking, everyone's talking about it, kind of huge. And you guys have sent us a ton of articles about it. So let's dive into
Yeah,
this.
let's do a deep dive.
Let's do it a deep dive into why this is such a big deal. What does it mean for Hyundai? What does it mean for India? And what does it mean for maybe even your portfolio?
Yeah, and you know what I think is really interesting about this is that Hyundai's not new to India. You know what I mean? Like they're already a major player. They're right
Yeah.
up there with Maruti Suzuki.
Right.
So it's not like they're just like dipping their toes in the water.
Yeah, so this isn't about getting their foot in the door. This is about like really shaking things up. Okay, so like what is the deal with this IPO?
Hmm.
We're seeing figures like 27,870 a crore, which I don't know about you, but I don't usually think in terms of crores.
Right.
But that translates to like over 3 billion US dollars. And we've got sources like Business Today and Mint calling this a major event. And apparently the last time an Indian automaker went public was Maruti Suzuki, way back in 2003. So this is kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal, and I think what makes it even more interesting is how they're actually doing it. So it's what's called an offer for sale, or an OFS.
Yeah.
Which basically means that Hyundai's South Korean parent company is selling off 17.5% of their stake in Hyundai Motor India.
Okay.
So think of it like, you win the lottery.
Right.
And you decide, you know what, I'm going to sell like a little piece of this winning ticket. You still get to keep most of it, but you get a nice little payout up front.
Okay, that makes sense. But then instead of that money going back into the Indian company, it's going straight to South Korea. So does that raise any eyebrows?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think it definitely raises questions about, how is this move going to directly benefit Hyundai's operations in India? Some investors might look at it and say, well, is this just the parent company cashing in on some of their success, as opposed to, really doubling down on future growth?
Especially with the price band being set at 1,865 to 1,960 per share. I mean, that's a pretty penny, even for a company as, well-established as Hyundai India is.
Yeah.
And then you've got all this buzz about the gray market premium.
Yeah.
It's like the stock market rumor mill, right? Like everyone's trying to get like a little sneak peek at what the stock might do.
Right, exactly. And the gray market, or GMP, it's this kind of unofficial trading ground where shares are bought and sold before the actual IPO.
Right,
It's almost like you can get a temperature check on investor sentiment,
right.
but it's also incredibly volatile. Like Business Today mentioned that GMP started sky high, something like $500 per share, and then plummeted.
Oh, wow.
So like, are investors getting cold feet? What's going on?
Yeah, it's like riding a roller coaster in the dark.
Yeah.
You're like, "Ah."
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait, what's going on?
Exactly.
So are investors excited about Hyundai or are they getting spooked?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that plummeting GMP does kind of suggest that maybe some of that initial euphoria has faded a little bit.
Yeah.
It could be those OFS concerns we talk about. Could be those high valuations. It could just be general market jitters, honestly. It's really hard to pinpoint, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
I feel like this whole IPO thing has people comparing it to Maruti Suzuki.
Right.
Because they're like the kings of the Indian car market.
Exactly. Maruti Suzuki's IPO back in 2003 was a massive deal. And they've been such a dominant force in the market ever since.
Right.
So I think the question on everyone's mind is this Hyundai trying to, like, take their crown?
So are we talking like a David and Goliath situation here?
Well, it's not quite that simple. I mean, it's true that Maruti Suzuki, they have a much larger market valuation. I mean, we're talking a difference of lakhs of crores. And their individual share prices are way higher.
Okay.
So,
Hyundai has some serious catching up to do.
yeah.
It's like one of those racing video games where you start like way behind, right? And you got to hit every turbo boost just to like see the leader.
I love that analogy. That's great. But, even the leader can hit a few bumps in the road.
That's true.
And, while Maruti Suzuki's recent financials show a pretty significant profit jump, their revenue is up. When you look at their September sales figures, it's a little bit of a different story. Domestic sales actually dipped for them.
Interesting. Okay, so even the king isn't invincible.
Right.
So how is Hyundai doing? How did their numbers look?
Well, their September sales were also down, and actually by a larger percentage than Maruti Suzuki.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like they're both kind of navigating a bit of a bumpy road at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's the auto industry for you, right?
Right.
Cyclical, unpredictable, kind of a roller coaster sometimes.
Exactly.
Speaking of unpredictable, let's talk about what the analysts are saying about this whole Hyundai move.
Yes.
Are they bullish on this IPO or are they like hitting the brakes?
It's like trying to predict the weather. Everyone's got their own forecast. But I would say that most brokerages seem cautiously optimistic. Giving it a subscribe for long-term rating seems to be the general consensus.
Okay, so a little bit of optimism, but also like a little bit of like, I don't know.
A little bit of hold on tight.
Yeah, exactly. So what is everyone so excited about when it comes to Hyundai?
Well, for starters, they've built a really strong brand in India. They consistently rank highly in customer satisfaction. They've got a reputation for making reliable cars, stylish cars.
Yeah, I feel like they've really upped their game in terms of design.
They have. And I think that's really resonating with consumers.
Mm-hmm.
But particularly, I think younger buyers are really liking what they're seeing.
Right.
They've also tapped into this, growing SUV market
Yeah.
with some really popular models,
Right.
which is a smart move.
Smart.
And then on top of that, you've got their export potential. They're already a major exporter from India,
Right.
and they're looking to expand that even further, targeting emerging markets all over the world.
Wow.
So you've got a strong brand, popular models, global ambitions.
It's sounding pretty good so far.
It does sound pretty good, but there's always another side to the story, right?
Right. What are the analysts worried about?
Ah, yes, the inevitable downside. Well, you see, even the most optimistic outlook, you got to come back down to earth a little bit.
Right.
And one of the biggest concerns is just the intense competition in the Indian car market.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a crowded space.
Yeah.
You've got domestic players, international players, all fighting for market share.
It's tough.
And that can lead to thinner profit margins, and it makes it harder to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, it's like they say, if you're standing still, you're falling behind.
Exactly. You can't get complacent.
Hyundai can't afford to just relax.
Exactly. Another concern is their reliance on a small number of key suppliers.
Oh, okay.
So any disruption to their supply chain,
Yeah.
whether it's, a natural disaster, a pandemic, even just a labor dispute,
Right.
that could have a significant impact on their production.
It's like they're building this amazing car, but they only have like 2 spare parts.
Right, exactly.
And if anything goes wrong, you're kind of stuck.
And on top of all of that, you have the cyclical nature of the auto industry, right?
Yeah.
Economic downturns,
Yeah.
fuel prices, government regulations,
Right.
all of these things can really impact even the best companies.
Okay, so for those of us at home who are like, okay, I'm trying to keep up with this. We've got the OFS thing. We've got the gray market doing its up and down thing.
Yeah.
We've got the whole Maruti Suzuki comparison, and now we've got expert opinions. What does this actually mean for like the average person?
Yeah.
Should we be like, all right, Hyundai stock, I'm in, let's do this?
Right. Is this a sure bet?
Yeah.
That's the million-dollar question. And I think the short answer is it's complicated.
Okay.
It's a big deal. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But it's not necessarily a guaranteed win.
So not like hitting the jackpot on a slot machine.
Not quite.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some valid concerns to consider.
Okay.
Like we talked about with the OFS structure, the money that you invest isn't going directly to fund the Indian company's growth,
Right.
which some investors might find a little concerning. And then those high valuations that we talked about,
Right.
those could mean that the stock price already reflects a lot of that potential future growth.
It's like buying the hot new phone.
Exactly.
You're paying a premium for something that everyone already wants.
You got it.
Okay, so you're saying it's not a sure thing.
Yeah,
But Hyundai's not doing everything wrong.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
They're a strong company.
Yeah.
They're operating in a booming market.
Right.
They've got a track record of success, and they've got some really exciting plans for the future.
Yeah, they're talking about electric vehicles. They're talking about upping their manufacturing game.
Exactly. And let's not forget about their global ambitions.
Right, trying to be a big player everywhere, not just India.
Yeah, that global vision could lead to some big rewards down the road.
So it's really all about weighing the good and the bad,
Yeah.
the risks and the rewards.
And that's why we do these deep dives.
Exactly.
Trying to give you all the information you need to make those informed decisions.
We've looked at all the details. We've heard what the experts are saying.
Right.
And hopefully given you a better picture of what this IPO is all about.
Exactly.
But before we go, here's something else to think about. What if this is just the beginning for Hyundai?
Ooh.
What if they're not just trying to be a big player in India?
Right.
What if they want to be like a global automotive superpower?
Now, that is a thought-provoking question.
Right.
It'll be fascinating to watch this all unfold.
It really will. And that's kind of the exciting part, isn't it?
It is.
Seeing how this all plays out.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Hyundai's IPO.
It's been fun.
We will definitely be keeping an eye on this story as it develops.
There's